Hi guys. In this video, we're going to be learning to use syntax to vary our sentence openers. So in the last video, we learned about how nouns, adjectives, verbs, adverbs, and prepositions are our basic building blocks of a sentence. However, when we were writing about our scene here, and I'm just going to stick to scene setting examples for the purposes of this video, when we were writing about our scenes, we found that all our sentences were a little bit samey in the way that they started. It always started the adjective noun, the tall mountain, the dark forest, and then what it was doing, was towering, looming, whatever it might be, and then where it was doing it. So they were all following this adjective noun, verb, adverb, preposition structure. And that works. It works very, very well. However, if you only do that, your writing becomes very predictable and it doesn't have a lot of character to it. It doesn't have a lot of flavour to it. And what we want is for our writing to be a little bit more engaging, a little bit more exciting. And the way we do that is not by just having a list of different openers that we can use, like suddenly or all of a sudden and that sort of thing. Instead, what we need to get to grips with is the idea of syntax. And syntax basically just means word order. So the word order of this sentence is adjective, noun, verb, adverb, preposition. However, let's take one of these sentences here and let's try writing it in a slightly different way. So let's take this one here. The tall mountain was towering imposingly over the valley. Well, we're now being told start with the adverb. So let's try that now. The adverb is imposingly. So I'm going to change that there. Should be a capital. It's the start of a sentence. Imposingly. What was the adjective? It was tall. Noun was mountain. And it was towering. Was towering. And where was it towering? Over the valley. I forgive any wee typos as I'm going here. And now we've got a slightly different flavour of sentence. Instead of starting with the and then adjective, it now starts with an adverb. It means the same thing. If I say the tall mountain was towering imposingly over the valley, it's exactly the same as imposingly the tall mountain was towering over the valley. They mean the same thing. However, it gives a bit of variety to our writing if we can sometimes start with the adverb instead. And I could do it with the same sentence here. So I can see here, look, the adverb is ominously. So instead of saying the dark forest loomed ominously in the distance, I could say ominously the dark forest loomed in the distance. And that would make just as much sense. But if I find that I've started with the word the a few times, well, maybe instead of trying to think of a random opener, I'll just slap the adverb at the start of the sentence. And my sentence will work just as well. However, we can put other things at the start of a sentence. I could slap the preposition at the start. So let's do that with this second sentence here. We had the dark forest loomed ominously in the distance. Well, we're being told for this one to start with a preposition. And our preposition was in the distance. And we had the, shouldn't be a capital there. In the distance, the dark forest, and it's I'm not even doing verb adverb now. I'm now doing adverb verb. So I can change the order of them. You can verb adverbly or you can adverbly verb. Uh, so ominously loom or loom ominously. We're going adverb first. Ominously loomed. And again, this sentence makes sense. In the distance, the dark forest ominously loomed. Full stop. Now, you might sort of think, well, what does it matter if we're not actually changing the meaning? Simply, it's to add variety. It's as simple as that. If your sentences all start with the word the, they become very boring very quickly. It doesn't take a lot just to start with one of your other words in the sentence. If you have an idea of nouns, adjectives, verbs, adverbs, and prepositions, you just decide, well, you know what? I've not started with an adverb in a while. I'm going to slap it at the start. Or I've not started with a verb in a while. I'll slap that at the start. Now, the beauty of this is you can vary the syntax all over the place and find that there are lots of different combinations and lots of different orders to this that can still make sense. Let's try this one here. I'm not going to color code these. I'm just going to try typing using some of these structures here. So we're being told to start with the adjective. We're going to go adjective noun. Now that could be the, the tall grass swayed in the wind. But if I want to start with an adjective, I could take out the word the. And I just go tall. There we go. That's our adjective. Tall grass. Verbed. So we need our verb. It's going to sway, swayed. And let's go gently in the wind. So we've got tall grass swayed gently in the wind. And that follows this structure. Tall, adjective, grass, noun, swayed, verb, gently, adverb, in is our preposition. So far we've started with adverbs and adjectives and prepositions and nouns. But what about starting with a verb? I've left that till last because it is just slightly more complicated for one simple reason. And I think the easiest way to see why is just to try it as it is first. So let's take the sun. And I'm going to have the sun shining, and my adverb will be brightly. And I'll say the beautiful sun. Now I go straight to my preposition. It doesn't sound right, does it? I sort of go in the sky or upon the land. There's something missing. And what is it that's missing in this case? It's another verb. If you start with the verb of a sentence, you always need a second verb. So shining brightly, the beautiful sun, and I could say something like beamed, and my preposition could now be upon the land, or beamed down upon the land. And there we go. Now it makes sense. But you can see in this case here, we actually have two verbs. We have shining, which we've opened with, and then we've got beamed just after that there. Just to give a similar example, perhaps I'm imagining an animal in this scene. I could have circling, and instead of an adverb for the second part, I'm going to go for a preposition here. So circling above, but I've started with a verb. The only way to make it make sense is to give a second verb as well. So circling above, the eagle soared majestically. And there we go. We've got one verb there, circling, and we've got another verb here. And two are required to make sense if we begin with a verb in a sentence. So, quick activity time. I have here a series of sentence structures, and at any point I would like you to pause the video on any of these that takes your fancy, or just a random one. You can just pause randomly as I click through them. And whichever one you land on, I would like you to try and take that as a sentence, and I'd like you to follow the structure. So you've got above, you've got the actual structure just written in its raw form, and then underneath you've got an example sentence that you can copy the style of. Some of them are based around scene setting, some of them are based around characterization, but all of them are different ways of using these basic elements, the basic building blocks, nouns, adjectives, verbs, adverbs, and prepositions, in order to improve your writing. So there you go. To finish off with then, here is a simple exercise that you can try in order to explore syntax a little bit more. This is not my idea, so no credit to me for this, but I think it's a really good idea and I think it works really well for understanding syntax. Here's a simple sentence. Quietly, the girl crept down the staircase holding her breath. So we've got an adverb at the start, quietly. We've got our noun, the girl. We've got two verbs. She crept and she's holding. And we've got our preposition, down the staircase. Staircase is another noun, breath is another noun. So we've got a few different building blocks in there. The challenge to you, I'd like you to pause the video and see how many different ways can you rewrite this sentence in a way that still makes sense. To give you a couple of ideas, just to get you started, you could easily move the holding her breath to the start. Holding her breath, the girl crept down the staircase quietly. So I started with a verb there. and the sentence still makes sense. I could start with, we've already got the adverb there. I could start with the preposition. Down the staircase, the girl crept. And I will stop at that point. How many other permutations, how many different variations, how many other different ways of writing this sentence can you think of? By doing that, you'll find very quickly that you start to gain an understanding of how you can use syntax to change the order of words and therefore change the character or the flavour of your sentences. But that's it, guys. Basically, that's how to become a good creative writer. Cheers, guys!